Hi, I'm Amey Zeigler. I am a 2 times traditionally published author, and I want to start out with the basics of how to plot a story. Before I get into this, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between being a pantser and a plotter. So a lot of people, when they first start out, they don't know how to plot, and so they just kind of write whatever comes to them. And that's okay. I did that for the first couple of books. I think the first 3 books that I wrote, I just said I had these scenes in my head and I just wanted to write them. And then once I learned a little bit more about plotting, I kind of melded them into a story and they made sense. But it took me several years to write one story. So then I started reading books on how to plot. And that really helped me. Now, I'm not saying that this is the best way or the only way to write a story. In fact, there are lots of different ways to climb the proverbial mountain and finish that novel. But this is the way that most people learn first. And this is kind of what we were taught in school, is this 7 basic plot structure. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about it. And then in the next video, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper into how you can turn this into a 15-point plot structure based on the book Save the Cat Writes a Novel by Jessica Brody. So let's talk about these 7 plot points. First of all, you're gonna have something called the rising action. And this is why I did it over here on the board so you can kind of see my little illustration. And the climax is gonna be what's at the top. So everything that is happening is driving you towards this climax. So the first thing that you're gonna have is your beginning, and this is the introduction of the character, and then you're gonna have something called an inciting incident. That is plot point number 1, right down here. This is usually when you talk about your novel, when they ask you, what is it about? You say, it is about a girl who goes to Switzerland to find out that her internship is canceled. That is the inciting incident. What happens before then is a little bit of introduction to our character, but this is when people start to say, what happens in your book? This is going to be your first plot point. Something moves your character so that they have to make a decision and either go forward or go back. Okay, that's called the inciting incident. Then you have plot point number 1. Now, I'm a romance writer, so my plot point number 1 is usually meeting the love interest, which is why I have this little heart right here. But it can also be something else. It can be, if you're writing a mystery, it could be the murder, and then you have the first big, clue dropped, right? They've searched and searched and searched, and they want to know what that big clue is, okay? Plot point number 1 happens at about, we're gonna say 20% of your story. So that means 20% of your story has gone by in the plot point. When I write romances, I actually introduce the romantic interest earlier, but at that 20% mark is usually when they either have their first kiss or they start to first realize that they have feelings for this person, okay? Then you have a midpoint. Now the midpoint is going to be precisely, or thereabouts, 50% of your story. So if you're writing something that's 100,000 words, it's gonna be at 50,000 words. If it's something like 70,000, you're gonna have to do math, because I don't do math on the fly. Okay, but anyway, so this is gonna be at the exact middle point in your book, or in your story, and it's going to be a turning point. This is where your story starts to head in a different direction. If you're writing a romance, something will happen at this point. If you're writing a mystery, something will happen at this point. I read a lot of Nancy Drew's. This is usually the point when somebody tries to kill Nancy, right? Okay, now she knows it's upped the stakes a little bit. Somebody's after her. She knows she's on the right track because the boogeymen are coming after her, okay? Now, at the next point, at about 80%-ish, you're gonna have plot point number 2. And as a romance writer, guess what? That's when they realize they can't be together forever. Oh, heartbreak. And so I symbolize that as a little heartbreak. But it doesn't have to be. If your story has a B story romance, then this may not be the big plot point that you're looking for. It may be something else. I also write mysteries. So this is when they're getting really close and they think they know who the actual perpetrator is, the villain, right? And then you come to this point, okay? This is going to be right before your climax. And this is called the dark night of the soul, okay? This is when realizations happen. When you have that realization, whatever caused this to keep them from being together, they have to confront this and overcome it. That's what leads to the climax, because now they've come to the soul-searching place where they feel like they can overcome, and now they have to face whatever demon it is, and actually the climax happens. And the climax usually is something that personifies their greatest fear that they have to face after they realize that they can't go forward anymore until they face their fear. Climax happens, and then they have the ending scene. The ending, you can't just end it at the climax because people will A, be very angry at you, and B, people need resolution, right? This is called the dénouement in French, which means going down and ending on a nice note, a resonant note. So if you follow this structure, you're going to at least have a workable story, and that's going to be your first step to making fiction that is going to be incredible and amazing. Join us for the next video when I talk about scene structure. Thank you.